The wind tore across the jagged cliffs of Zyra 9, whipping dust and sand into twisted spirals that danced across the barren landscape. The human, Captain Elias Ward, tightened his grip on the straps of his exploration pack as he trudged forward. Each step was a careful negotiation with the rocky terrain, but his eyes were sharp, scanning for any signs of life or danger. Zyra 9 had earned its reputation as a storm-ravaged, unwelcoming frontier, and humans had only recently begun mapping it for interstellar colonies. Most aliens avoided it. Humans thrived on challenges. Elias had chosen this particular ridge because his sensors had picked up faint electromagnetic fluctuations that didn't match any natural phenomenon he knew. Could be remnants of an old alien installation, he muttered, adjusting his visor to filter out the blinding sunlight. He liked a challenge. Humans, after all, had a strange way of turning the impossible into routine. Suddenly, a sharp, metallic screech tore through the air. Elias froze. His visor detected movement ahead, a blur faster than any human could move. He ducked instinctively as a massive, insect-like creature lunged from the rocks, its claws scraping the ground. Elias' hand went to his multi-tool, but he knew better than to rush. Timing and precision were humans' secret weapons, and panicking rarely helped. The creature skidded past, missing him by inches, and vanished into a swirl of dust. Elias exhaled, feeling the thrill of survival surge through him. He tapped a control on his wrist console. "Sensors picked something odd," he murmured. "Not this, something alive." His words were quiet, almost to himself, but his instincts told him that whatever was out there was bigger than a scavenger. That's when he saw her. She lay half-hidden beneath a jagged overhang, one limb twisted at an unnatural angle. Her skin shimmered faintly, a mixture of green and gold, and her eyes were wide and full of fear. Despite her injuries, she radiated an energy that was almost impossible to ignore, sharp, alive, and defiant. She was an alien, no doubt, but something in her stance told Elias that she was not helpless. "Hey," he called carefully, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm here to help." Her response was immediate and loud, a mix of hissing and a guttural shout. "Cool it, beastie, you'll break my back," she yelled, rolling her eyes as she tried to push herself upright. Her words were a mixture of humor and anger, and for a brief moment Elias laughed quietly. Humans had an odd way of appreciating danger, even when it screamed at them in an alien tongue. "I won't," he assured her, kneeling carefully beside her. "I just need to see the injury." "Can you stay still?" The alien glared at him, her head tilting in disbelief. "Stay still. Do I look like I sit still while I'm bleeding out?" Elia's fingers brushed against her wound and he froze, making sure not to touch her too roughly. His training told him that the bones in her torso were more delicate than human bones, so he had to work with precision. "Just for a moment," he said calmly. "I need to make sure you don't lose too much blood." The alien made a sound that was somewhere between a scoff and a growl. "I survive without humans poking at me. Lucky for you, I happen to be a human who's really good at poking," he replied, carefully removing some of the debris from her wound. He worked quickly, efficiently, wrapping it with a fabric he tore from his pack. The alien flinched at first, then froze, sensing that he wasn't going to hurt her. As he worked, Elia's mind raced. Why was she here, injured and alone, on a planet that was hostile to almost every life form? His sensors hadn't detected any other life nearby. "Are you hiding?" he asked. The alien woman's breathing slowed slightly, and for a brief moment the hostility in her eyes softened. "Hiding, yes," she said, her voice lower now. "From hunters." Hunters. Elia's heart tightened. He knew the type, aliens who saw others as trophies or resources, not as living beings. He looked around, noting the jagged cliffs and the sparse vegetation. There was no shelter nearby. He needed a plan. "We'll get you somewhere safe," he promised. "I can carry you if I have to." Her head snapped back. "Carry me? Do I look like I need a babysitter?" Elia smiled, because humans were like that. Sometimes the smallest gestures of kindness and practicality could win trust faster than words. "I'll carry you if it keeps you alive," he said, "and you'll thank me later." The alien woman's lips curled into something resembling a smile, though it was clearly reluctant. "I doubt it," she said, but her eyes betrayed curiosity. "You humans always so confident." "Not confident," Elias said. "Careful, calculated." He helped her to her feet, supporting her weight with a steady arm. Every movement had to be deliberate. He could feel her tension, every muscle coiled like a spring. She didn't want help, but she needed it. Humans thrived on finding solutions in impossible situations. That was their gift. The terrain ahead was steep, but Elias chose a safe path, moving slowly to avoid slips. "Name?" he asked, walking beside her. She glared at him. "Why?" "Because I'd like to know who I'm risking my life to save." Her eyes flicked to him, suspicion warring with something else, perhaps amusement. "Tara," she said finally. "Tara," Elias repeated. "I'm Elias. And we're going to get off this cliff without either of us breaking any backs." Tara snorted softly, the sound half laugh, half disbelief. "You humans really do talk too much." "I talk," he said, "because humans are good at thinking aloud, helps us survive." They moved in silence for a few minutes, each step a careful negotiation with the sharp rocks. The wind howled, tearing at their clothing, but neither of them faltered. Elia's mind was already running through contingencies. He knew Zyra 9 storms could arrive without warning. Survival meant speed, caution, and creative thinking, and humans had all three in abundance. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Tara's eye and she froze. Elias followed her gaze. Another predator, sleek and shadowy, was stalking them from the ridge above. Its claws scraped the stone, its eyes glowed faintly red. "Stay calm," Elias whispered, "and stay close." Tara's breath hitched, but she didn't argue. Elia's hand brushed against hers in a guiding motion. He whispered instructions, pointing out rocks that could provide cover. He had learned long ago that humans had a tendency to improvise and exploit weaknesses, both their own and others. And he was about to show Tara exactly what that meant. The predator lunged, but Elias had already created a distraction. He threw a piece of rock to the side, and the creature snapped toward the sound. Tara blinked, astonished, and for a brief moment Elias smiled. Humans survived by anticipating threats and thinking faster than anyone else. "Not bad," she muttered, her voice laced with grudging respect. Elias didn't respond. There wasn't time. He guided her down a narrow crevice, moving with precision. The predator's claws scraped past them, missing by inches. They ducked under overhangs, Elias calculating each movement like a chess game. Humans were good at turning the odds in their favor, and he intended to prove it. Finally, they reached a small alcove, hidden from the predator. Both of them gasped, catching their breath. Tara leaned against the wall, her chest heaving. "You humans are insane," she said finally. "Not insane," Elias said, smiling. "Persistent, clever, adaptable, that's humans." Tara gave him a long look, her green-gold eyes meeting his. For the first time there was a glimmer of trust, even curiosity. "Perhaps not entirely useless," she admitted. Elias chuckled. "You'll learn," he said. "Humans have a habit of surviving and sometimes thriving where no one expects us to." The wind screamed around the cliffs, and the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape. Elias and Tara crouched together in the small alcove, both alert, both wary, both alive. They didn't know what the night would bring, or what other dangers lurked in the shadows. But one thing was certain: humans were unpredictable, clever, and determined. And for the first time, Tara realized that being saved by one might not be so terrible. And Elias knew that on a world like Zyra 9, the survival of two depended on more than just strength. It depended on trust, ingenuity, and a little bit of human stubbornness. White heavy check mark word count. If you want, I can immediately continue with part 2, keeping the same style, tone, and pacing. where the journey across Zyra 9 begins and their dynamic develops further. Full tilde 1,600 words again. Do you want me to continue part 2 next? Part 2. 1,600 words ka leko or interesting hunachea or third-person style, ma lekni ha or simple basic English ka, or violated free hona chai without short heading absolutely. Let's continue with part 2 of your story, keeping the same style. Third person, simple English, engaging, HFY focused and completely violation-free, about 1,600 words. The night on Zyra 9 was quiet in an uneasy way. The wind had died down slightly, leaving only the low hum of distant storms and the occasional rattle of loose stones. Elias and Tara stayed huddled in their small alcove, their breathing slowly returning to normal after the chase. The cliffside offered some protection, but it was far from safe. Elias pulled out a small device from his pack, a portable sensor that could detect movement, temperature, and chemical signatures within a short radius. He tapped the screen carefully, his fingers steady. "We need to know if the predator is still nearby," he said softly. Tara leaned forward, her sharp eyes glinting in the dim light. "I don't understand why you do all this. Humans, you take risks you don't need to. You could have left me." He smiled faintly. "Because leaving someone behind isn't human nature. We survive together, that's the difference." She snorted, though there was no real amusement in it. "You humans, always talking about together. Do you even know what it means to survive alone?" Elias considered her words for a moment. Humans could survive alone, yes, but they often thrived when working with others. "Alone," he said, "you survive. Together, you make sure you can live and live well." Tara didn't answer immediately. Her attention was on the sensor, which beeped quietly. "No movement," she murmured, "for now, but the predators, they come back." "I know," Elias said, packing the device back into his bag. "We move before sunrise. We'll need a path that's clear and we'll need to be fast." "I don't want to run into another one." The alien woman raised an eyebrow. "You sound like you've done this before." Elias shrugged. "I have. Humans tend to explore places no one else dares to go, and sometimes we survive where others fail." Tara laughed softly, a sound that surprised even her. "You're bold, almost foolish." "Boldness," Elias replied, "is just courage with a plan." Morning came slowly, painting the jagged cliffs in shades of orange and red. The wind picked up again, but not as fiercely as the previous day. Elias helped Tara down from the alcove, her movements careful but wary. She still moved with a predator's grace, even injured, and Elias made sure to adjust his pace so she wouldn't strain herself. They walked for hours, the terrain growing more treacherous with every step. Sharp rocks jutted from the ground, and the occasional fissure threatened to collapse under their weight. Tara, despite her injuries, scouted ahead, her instincts guiding them through areas Elias would have considered dangerous. "You're fast," Elias commented. "Faster than I expected." Tara glanced back, a hint of pride in her eyes. "It's called survival instinct. Something humans sometimes lack." Elias laughed quietly. "We make up for it with cleverness." He demonstrated by taking a long, flat rock and placing it across a small gap, creating a makeshift bridge. Tara raised an eyebrow. "You think of everything." "Not everything," Elias said, "but enough to survive." As they crossed the gap, Tara stumbled slightly. Elias caught her arm immediately. "Careful," he warned, steadying her. "I can handle it," she said, though her eyes betrayed relief at his grip. They continued through narrow passes and rocky ridges, moving slowly but steadily. Elias had noticed strange tracks in the dust, smaller predators, perhaps, following the scent of blood. He marked the path in his memory, ready to use the terrain to their advantage if needed. Humans were good at reading patterns and predicting danger, even when the signs were subtle. Around midday, they reached a small plateau with sparse vegetation. Small, thorny bushes and short trees provided minimal cover, but enough to rest for a moment. Elias set down his pack and gestured for Tara to sit. We need to eat something, he said, opening a compact ration pack. Tara eyed the rations suspiciously. You eat that, Elias nodded. Humans can survive on very little, but we also improvise with what we find. He pulled out a small tool and began carefully harvesting edible roots from the area, showing Tara how to clean and prepare them. It's not much, he said, but it keeps us going. She watched him for a long moment, then cautiously tasted one. Her eyes widened slightly. Not bad, she admitted, though she quickly turned her head to hide the small smile. See, Elias said, grinning. Humans know how to survive anywhere. After eating, Elias examined Tara's wound again. He adjusted the bandage, ensuring it stayed clean and secure. You're healing well, he said, but we need to keep moving. These cliffs aren't safe for long periods. Tara sighed, but she didn't argue. You humans, you never stop. Never, Elias said. We adapt, we endure. That's how we survive where others can't. The sun began to dip lower, casting long shadows across the plateau. Elias decided to scout ahead for a better path. He moved carefully, using rocks and small outcrops to hide from potential predators. Tara followed at a measured distance, her movements silent and precise. Together, they formed an unlikely team, one relying on instinct, the other on ingenuity. Hours passed with little incident, though the tension never fully left the air. Elias noted every rock, every shadow, every subtle movement. Human survival instincts, honed over generations, allowed him to anticipate dangers that might have caught other species unaware. Tara began to see this, her initial skepticism slowly giving way to respect. You humans, she said finally, breaking the silence. You survive even when the odds are against you. I thought you were fragile. Fragile? Elias asked, raising an eyebrow. Humans, we adapt. We survive. Sometimes that looks fragile to others until we prove otherwise. She didn't respond immediately, but her eyes followed him closely, studying his every movement. It was rare for her species to admit admiration openly, but Elias could sense it in the way she mirrored his careful steps and scanned the environment with him. Night fell again, darker than before, and the temperature dropped. Elias and Tara found another small alcove, more sheltered this time. He started a small heat device, enough to keep them warm but not so bright as to attract predators. Tara settled nearby, her body tense but not resisting his efforts to make them comfortable. Do humans always take risks like this? She asked, her voice quieter than before. Elias shook his head. No, we take calculated risks. We survive where others can't because we plan, we improvise, and we never give up. That's why I'm here with you instead of running back to safety. Tara looked at him thoughtfully. You're unusual. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe, or maybe humans just do things differently. We survive not by being the strongest, but by being clever, adaptable, and willing to face danger head-on. For the first time since he met her, Tara relaxed slightly. I suppose I can see that. You humans, perhaps there is more to you than I thought. Elias chuckled. We're full of surprises. The night passed slowly. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and the wind picked up again, carrying with it the scent of rain and electricity. Elias remained alert, watching the skies and listening to the subtle shifts in the terrain. Humans were not only survivors, they were observers, planners, and thinkers, and that made them dangerous to any predator who underestimated them. Morning arrived with a muted light, casting long shadows across the jagged cliffs. Elias and Tara packed their supplies and prepared to move again. The terrain ahead was treacherous, but Elias had already devised a path that maximized cover and minimized exposure. Tara followed his lead, trusting his instincts more than she had at first. As they began their climb, Tara stumbled again, but Elias caught her without hesitation. Careful, he said, steadying her. I am careful, she replied, a hint of irritation in her voice, though her eyes betrayed relief. You've got instincts, Elias said. but humans know how to turn instinct into strategy. That's why we survive where others fail. Tara's expression softened slightly. Perhaps humans are not so helpless after all. Far from it, Elias said, smiling. We endure, we adapt, and we never give up. By midday, they reached a small ridge overlooking a valley below. The landscape was rough, but it offered a clear path through the cliffs. Elias scanned the area, noting potential dangers and safe routes. Tara watched him silently, finally acknowledging that his human cleverness was as valuable as her physical agility. We should rest here for a moment, Elias said. The next stretch is more dangerous and we need our energy. Tara nodded, settling against a rock. You humans, I may never understand you fully, but I suppose I can trust you for now. Elias laughed quietly. That's all I ask, trust for now. We'll survive together and that's what matters. The wind picked up again, whistling through the cliffs, but neither of them flinched. They had survived the night, outsmarted predators, and learned to rely on one another. And as they rested, both knew that the journey ahead would be even more challenging. But with human ingenuity and alien instinct combined, they stood a chance. The valley below was wide and uneven, dotted with jagged rocks and patches of thorny shrubs. Elias paused at the edge, scanning the terrain. His visor picked up faint movements, small but deliberate. Stay close, he whispered to Tara, who crouched beside him, her eyes narrowing. Tara's tail twitched with tension. They are near, she said, her voice low and urgent. Predators, not the small ones, the hunters. Elias studied the landscape carefully. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest in the galaxy, but they had a knack for observation, improvisation, and exploiting weaknesses. His eyes followed the movement patterns of the hunters, large, sleek, and four-legged, with claws that could tear through rock. Their movements were too confident, too predictable. Humans thrived on unpredictability. They're too confident, he muttered. We can use that. Tara looked at him, skeptical. You plan to fight them. Not fight, Elias corrected. Outsmart them. There's a difference. They moved slowly, keeping to the shadows of rocks and ridges. Elias guided Tara along a hidden path, using the natural terrain to mask their approach. Follow me exactly, he instructed. Step where I step. Watch where I point. Any misstep could be fatal. Tara grunted but obeyed. Humans had a strange way of turning danger into strategy, and she had learned to respect it. You really think you can trick them? She asked. Elias nodded. Humans can survive where others fail. Watch and learn. The hunters were oblivious to their presence, moving in coordinated patterns. Elias noted their pace, their spacing, and the way they responded to sound. He grabbed a loose rock from the ground and whispered instructions to Tara. When I throw this, move behind the boulder to your right. Don't make a sound. Let them investigate, then follow me. Tara's eyes narrowed. I hope your humans' tricks work. Elias smiled faintly. They usually do. He threw the rock with careful precision. It bounced off a jagged surface and landed with a loud clatter, sending a cloud of dust into the air. One of the hunters snapped its head toward the sound and snarled. The others followed, their movements less cautious now. Now, Elias whispered, and he and Tara slipped behind the boulder. The hunters moved closer, their claws scraping against stone, their glowing eyes scanning the shadows. They didn't see the humans, who were using every advantage the terrain offered. Elias gestured to Tara. We go left over the ridge, keep low. She moved silently, impressed despite herself. Humans were not strong like her species, but their cleverness made them dangerous. Elias led her through a narrow crevice, and the hunters passed mere meters away without noticing them. When they were safely on the other side, Elias paused to catch his breath. Tara glanced at him with a mix of admiration and disbelief. You humans, I am beginning to see why your kind survives. Patience and observation, he said. Humans adapt quickly. We find the solution no one else sees. They continued, keeping a careful distance from the hunters. The valley ahead opened into a series of rocky ridges, perfect for setting a trap. Elias pointed to a narrow ledge with jagged stones above it. "We'll make them go there," he said. "Once they're in the narrow path, we can control the fight without directly confronting them." Tara tilted her head. "And you trust your humans' plan will work?" "I don't trust," Elias said. "I know." They moved carefully, her movements silent and precise, his calculated and deliberate. Elias had learned to read alien behavior patterns quickly. Predators relied on instinct and brute force. Humans relied on thought, foresight, and improvisation. That combination could turn the odds in their favor. As the hunters approached the trap site, Elias and Tara hid in the shadows. He used a small energy device to create a distraction, emitting a low-frequency vibration that mimicked the movement of prey. The hunters reacted immediately, their heads snapping toward the noise. "Now," Elias whispered. He nudged Tara forward. They dashed across the narrow ledge, the hunters' attention fully on the vibration. One misstep and it could have been fatal. The hunters pursued, but Elias had calculated the terrain. Loose rocks, jagged ledges, and narrow paths forced them to slow and navigate carefully. One hunter slipped, clawing at the edge of a ridge, and Elias seized the moment. He activated a small rock slide, sending a cascade of stones tumbling down the slope. The predator stumbled, caught in the debris, its momentum halted. Tara's eyes widened. "You humans, that was clever." Elias didn't answer. There wasn't time. Another hunter advanced, but he was ready. He used a combination of boulders and vines to create a temporary barrier, forcing it into a dead end. The predator snarled, frustrated, but could not proceed. "Your species is unpredictable," Tara admitted, her respect growing. "I underestimated humans." "Underestimating humans is a mistake," Elias said. "We survive where others fail because we see opportunities others overlook. Strength isn't just physical, it's thinking ahead." The hunters finally retreated, deciding that the humans were not worth the effort. Elias and Tara watched them disappear into the distance, their claws scraping against the rocks as they went. When the danger passed, Tara exhaled and finally allowed herself a small smile. "You humans are not what I expected. I thought you were fragile, weak, but you survive in ways I cannot imagine." Elias shrugged, smiling faintly. "Fragile? No. Humans are clever, determined, and stubborn. We endure." Tara's eyes softened, a rare display of admiration from her species. "I suppose I will have to adjust my opinion. Humans may be worth following after all." They continued through the valley, their movements cautious but confident. Elias taught Tara small tricks: how to use rocks to create noise distractions, how to read subtle shifts in predator behavior, and how to plan movements that minimized risk. She absorbed everything quickly, impressed by the practical intelligence humans brought to survival. Hours later, they reached a small plateau near a stream. The water was clear and cold, a rare resource on Zyra 9. Elias gestured to Tara. "Drink. We need energy. Then we rest before the next stretch." She knelt beside the stream, her fingers dipping into the water. "Humans, even in danger, you make time to survive and think. That is unusual." "Necessary," Elias said. "Humans survive because we plan for the long term, not just the moment. Every step, every decision counts." They rested briefly, and Elias treated Tara's wound again, adjusting the bandage and checking for swelling or infection. She flinched slightly at his touch but did not protest. His hands were steady, precise, careful, not the hands of a fighter but of a human trained in survival and care. "You are careful," Tara said. "I expected humans to be clumsy." "Clumsy is a choice," Elias said. "We choose precision, that's why we endure." Night approached again, darker and colder than before. They set up a small camp using natural cover and a compact heat source. Elias checked the surrounding area, making sure no predators lurked nearby. Humans had a habit of turning simple survival into strategy, and Tara had begun to realize that his cleverness was more valuable than sheer strength. "You humans, I do not understand everything about you," she admitted. but I see now why you survive where others perish. That's all I ask, Elias said. Trust and observation. We endure, we adapt, and we never give up. As they settled down for the night, the wind howling across the cliffs, both of them knew the challenges ahead would be greater. But for the first time, Tara realized that survival was not just about strength or instinct. It was about thinking, planning, and having the courage to act when others hesitated. Elias looked at her and smiled faintly. "We make a good team," he said. Tara gave a small, reluctant nod. Perhaps for humans that is true. The night was quiet, but both were awake, alert, and ready. On a world as harsh as Zyra 9, survival depended on cunning, cooperation, and the human capacity to turn danger into opportunity. And for the first time, Tara realized that she was no longer just following Elias because she had no choice. She was following because she had learned to respect the unpredictable, clever, and stubborn humans who had saved her life. The sun hung low over the horizon, casting a warm, orange glow across the rugged cliffs of Zyra 9. Elias and Tara had finally descended from the treacherous ridges into a valley that sloped gently toward the outpost, a human settlement built on stilts to withstand the planet's harsh terrain. It was small but organized, with solar panels, wind turbines, and modular buildings made of durable alloy. Smoke curled from a central heat unit, and the hum of machinery mingled with the cries of native birds. Tara paused at the edge of the valley, her gaze sweeping over the human structures. "This is impressive," she said softly. "Your species builds even in hostile places." Elias nodded. "Humans adapt. We survive by creating solutions, not by waiting for the environment to give us a chance." As they approached the outpost, a group of humans noticed them and rushed forward. Among them was Commander Selene Arik, a stern woman with a commanding presence and a reputation for strict but fair leadership. She had heard of Elias' solo mission and had come to meet him personally. "Captain Ward," she called, her voice firm. "You've gone farther than anyone else. Report." Elias saluted quickly. "Commander, we have a wounded alien with us, but she is stable. No predators followed us to the outpost, and we navigated the valley successfully. The terrain is harsh but manageable with careful planning." Commander Selene's eyes flicked to Tara, who remained cautious but silent. "A foreign species, injured and alone. You expect us to take her in?" Elias stepped forward. "She is not an enemy. She is a survivor, and I believe humans can assist without conflict. Our species' strength lies in helping others and adapting to new challenges." Tara's gaze shifted between Elias and Selene, uncertain of what to expect. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable, even within their own settlements. Their survival often relied on cooperation, but trust had to be earned. Commander Selene studied them both for a long moment. "Bring her to the med bay," she said finally. "We will assess the situation." Inside the outpost, the med bay was efficient, sterile, and functional. Human medics moved with precision, checking Tara's wound, monitoring her vital signs, and discussing treatment options with Elias. The alien woman, despite her initial wariness, allowed them to work, recognizing the human's skill. "You humans are careful," Tara murmured quietly, observing Elias' instructions. "Precision matters," Elias replied. "Strength alone won't keep you alive. Humans survive because we plan, anticipate, and adjust." As the medics finished, a council of human leaders gathered, including Commander Selene, Elias, and several representatives. They debated the implications of hosting an alien from an unknown species. Some feared diplomatic repercussions, while others saw opportunity. "We cannot simply ignore her," Elias argued. "She survived harsh terrain and predators. That demonstrates resilience and intelligence. Humans recognize value in cooperation." One council member frowned. "But what if she is part of a hostile faction?" "We cannot take risks with unknown species." Elias met her gaze steadily. "Humans take calculated risks. We assess, adapt, and act. Her survival is proof of resourcefulness, not hostility. You will gain more from cooperation than from fear. Tara watched silently, impressed by Elia's clarity. His words reflected a uniquely human approach, pragmatism combined with empathy. She had witnessed it firsthand during the climb and the predator ambush, and she was learning to appreciate its effectiveness. The council voted cautiously, agreeing to allow Tara temporary asylum while her health stabilized. Elias breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Humans had a way of turning diplomacy into strategy, and he had leveraged it effectively. Over the next few days, Tara adjusted to the human outpost. She observed routines, marveled at technological adaptations, and slowly began to trust the humans. Elias showed her how humans solved problems creatively, constructing irrigation systems from limited materials, modifying shelter to withstand storms, and even teaching small, simple tricks to navigate terrain safely. "You humans," she said one evening, watching Elias demonstrate a technique to redirect water using rocks and tubing. "You survive not just by strength but by thinking ahead. Cleverness is your real weapon." Elias smiled. "Cleverness and perseverance. Humans endure because we refuse to give up, even in impossible conditions." The interaction sparked curiosity among other aliens visiting the outpost for trade. Tara, once skeptical, now spoke on Elia's behalf, explaining human practices and strategies. Her presence lent credibility to his claims, helping humans establish respect with other species. But not all reactions were positive. A group of alien merchants questioned the humans' judgment, whispering about potential betrayal or manipulation. Elias anticipated this. He arranged a demonstration. Humans and Tara working together to repair a damaged transport drone using limited tools. The alien merchants watched as human ingenuity combined with Tara's physical prowess, showcasing efficiency, adaptability, and cooperation. Tara glanced at Elias. "Your species is remarkable. You find solutions where others see problems. I am learning to respect you." "And you," Elias replied, "show that adaptability is universal. Strength alone is not enough. Cleverness, observation, and courage matter too." Despite tension, the demonstration won over many skeptics. Aliens began to see humans as capable partners, not merely fragile beings struggling to survive. The outpost's reputation improved and alliances strengthened. Commander Selene approached Elias privately. "Your judgment was sound. Trust is hard to earn here, but you've shown humans value through action, not words. We may gain allies if this continues." Elias nodded. "Humans survive and thrive by observing, adapting, and proving themselves. That's the key. Fear slows species down. Action builds respect." Tara overheard and said quietly, "You humans earn trust through deeds. Cleverness and determination are as valuable as strength. I did not expect to see it so clearly." Over time, Elias and Tara navigated minor conflicts with other species, demonstrating strategies that balanced intelligence, observation, and cooperation. Humans' ability to improvise in difficult conditions became increasingly evident, solidifying the respect of outsiders. One evening, a storm rolled in, darker and fiercer than anything before. Lightning cracked the sky, and strong winds shook the outpost. Many species panicked, but humans remained calm. Elias coordinated with medics, engineers, and Tara to secure the outpost's infrastructure. He directed efforts to reinforce shelters, divert water, and protect vulnerable species. Tara followed instructions, marveling at humans' ability to remain composed in chaos. "Your species does not falter in danger. You adapt instantly and you plan faster than the storm itself." Elias smiled, exhausted but satisfied. "Humans endure storms because we think ahead, act decisively, and work together. That is our strength." By morning, the storm had passed, leaving minimal damage. Other species regarded humans with awe, and Tara spoke proudly of Elia's leadership. "He is remarkable," she said. "Your species survives by more than strength. You combine thought, courage, and action in ways others cannot match." The council convened again, this time with a more collaborative tone. Aliens expressed interest in learning from humans, while humans demonstrated willingness to share knowledge and techniques. Elias quietly facilitated discussions, balancing diplomacy with practical solutions. "You see," he said to Tara later, "humans succeed not because we are the strongest, but because we observe, adapt, and act. We earn trust through deeds, not words. That is why we survive." Tara nodded, a small smile on her face. "I understand now. Cleverness, planning, and courage, your species excels in ways I did not believe. I am learning to respect humans fully." As they looked out over the valley, the outpost bustling with activity, Elias felt a sense of accomplishment. Humans had faced danger, earned respect, and shown their ingenuity on a world that tested every skill and instinct. Tara, once skeptical and wary, had become an ally and a witness to the human way of survival, adaptable, clever, and unyielding. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the outpost glowed with artificial lights. Humans and aliens worked side by side, learning from each other, navigating challenges, and preparing for whatever the harsh world of Zyra 9 might bring next. Elias placed a reassuring hand on Tara's shoulder. "The journey isn't over," he said, "but humans endure because we never give up. We adapt, we learn, and we act when others hesitate. That is our gift." Tara's eyes reflected both admiration and understanding. "Your species is stronger than I imagined. Strength is not just in muscles but in thought and courage. I see now why humans survive where others fail." Together they watched the stars emerge in the darkening sky, knowing the challenges ahead would test them further, but also knowing that humans, with their unique combination of cleverness, courage, and endurance, could face the impossible and prevail. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of Zyra 9, jagged rocks, and thorny vegetation. The outpost rested peacefully under the glow of artificial lights, but Elias knew the calm was temporary. Reports from scouts indicated that a rival alien faction had been spotted approaching the valley, likely drawn by the scent of conflict or curiosity about the humans' sudden presence. Tara stood beside him, her posture alert, muscles tensed. "They come with force," she said quietly, her voice low. "They will test you, your species." Elias nodded. "That's fine. Humans survive because we plan, adapt, and act where others hesitate. We will show them exactly why they cannot underestimate us." The rival faction arrived at dawn. Massive, armored vehicles rumbled across the valley floor, their metallic claws scraping stones and tearing through vegetation. Alien scouts perched on cliffs, scanning the outpost for weaknesses. Some humans in the settlement panicked, but Elias moved with calm authority. "Everyone to defensive positions," he ordered. "Stay calm, stay alert, observe and act." Tara watched him with a mix of awe and respect. Elia's presence was steady, his instructions precise, his mind already calculating the terrain, the enemy movement, and the best way to neutralize threats without unnecessary risk. Humans were not the strongest species here, but their intelligence and adaptability gave them an edge that few could anticipate. Elias surveyed the valley, noting natural choke points, narrow paths, and rocky ridges that could slow the enemy. "We will use the terrain," he explained to Tara. "We can't overpower them, but we can outsmart them." Tara's eyes narrowed. "Your species, you truly fight with your minds first. I see now why humans survive." "Yes," Elias said, his voice firm. "Brains before brawn, always." He directed engineers to reinforce barricades and strategically place small automated turrets along narrow passes. Medics and volunteers set up first aid points, and scouts relayed enemy positions in real time. Elias coordinated the entire defense like a chess game, anticipating every move the rival faction might make. When the alien faction advanced, they moved quickly, expecting fear or disarray. But the humans remained calm, guided by Elia's strategy. The enemy approached a narrow ridge, unaware of the trap waiting for them. "Here," Elias whispered to Tara, pointing to a series of hidden rocks and boulders. "Once they enter the path, we can control the encounter without direct confrontation." Tara followed his instructions, using her agility and combat instincts to monitor the enemy's movement. She stayed low, silent, and ready, marveling at the human's ability to plan several steps ahead. "Your species is remarkable," she muttered. As the alien vehicles and warriors entered the trap, Elias triggered a controlled rock slide. Massive stones tumbled down the narrow path, forcing the enemy to slow and rearrange themselves. Confused and obstructed, they had to adapt quickly or fail. "Now," Elias commanded. Humans moved from cover to cover, using small, precise strikes to disable enemy equipment. They set traps, created diversions, and exploited every weakness in the terrain. The aliens were powerful, but they were not as adaptable as humans. Every misstep, every hesitation was amplified by human cunning. Tara moved alongside Elias, supporting with her strength and speed. Together, they became an unstoppable team. Where she provided agility and raw power, he supplied calculation, improvisation, and quick thinking. Humans and allies could overcome far stronger opponents when working together strategically. By mid-morning, the rival faction had been forced into retreat. Some vehicles were damaged, some soldiers disoriented, and morale shattered. The humans had won not through brute force but through careful planning, adaptability, and coordinated action. Tara stood beside Elias, watching the last of the enemy disappear over the horizon. "Your species, you survive where others fail. Not through strength alone, but through mind, courage, and persistence. I understand now." Elias smiled. "Humans endure because we adapt. We observe, plan, and act. That's why we survive. That's why we thrive." The outpost's inhabitants celebrated quietly, grateful to have survived the test. The alien species that had once doubted humans now regarded them with respect. Tara, once skeptical and wary, now spoke openly of human ingenuity, demonstrating to her peers the value of cooperation and clever strategy. Elias took a moment to walk through the outpost. Humans and aliens alike were repairing damage, exchanging knowledge, and organizing resources. The chaos of the conflict had revealed the strengths of both species and the power of collaboration. Tara approached him. "You humans, you do not fight alone. You plan, adapt, and endure. You make others stronger by showing them what is possible. That is impressive." "It's what humans do," Elias said, shrugging. "We survive, we endure, and we help each other along the way. Strength is not only in the body, it's in the mind, in the will, and in the courage to act when others hesitate." For the first time, Tara laughed softly. It was a sound of genuine amusement and relief, free from sarcasm or suspicion. "Perhaps I may not fully understand humans yet, but I respect you. You are more than I imagined." Elias nodded, satisfied. "And you, Tara, have shown that adaptability and courage are universal traits. We all have something to learn from each other." Over the next days, humans and aliens worked together to strengthen the outpost. Tara became a liaison, demonstrating to her species how humans approached problem-solving, survival, and cooperation. Other aliens began to see the value in forming alliances rather than assuming hostility. One evening, Elias and Tara stood on a high ridge overlooking the valley. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Below them, the outpost thrived, a symbol of human ingenuity and collaboration. "You humans, you are clever, resourceful, and determined. You survive where others fail," Tara said quietly. "I see now why your species endures in a harsh universe." Elias smiled. "We endure because we refuse to give up. We observe, we plan, and we act. That is our way, that is what makes humans strong. Tara's expression softened. Perhaps humans are more than I imagined. I am glad I trusted you. Elias glanced at her, his expression warm. Trust is earned, not given. You've seen what humans can do, and now you understand. That's all that matters. As night fell, stars twinkled across Zyra Nine's sky. The outpost glowed below, alive with activity and cooperation. Humans and aliens worked side by side, each learning from the other. Humans had shown that survival was not about raw strength, but about observation, cleverness, and the courage to act when others hesitated. Tara watched the human outpost, her mind reflecting on everything she had seen. Elias had survived harsh terrain, predators, and political tension, not through muscle or aggression, but through thought, ingenuity, and calm determination. Humans were unpredictable, persistent, and intelligent, and those qualities had saved countless lives, including hers. "You humans," she said softly, her tone filled with admiration, "you endure in ways no one expects. Strength is not only in the body, but in the mind, the heart, and the courage to act. I respect that." Elias smiled. "And humans respect those who show courage, adaptability, and cooperation. You've proven that, Tara. Together we survive. Together we thrive." The wind blew gently across the ridge, carrying with it the scent of metal, earth, and life. The outpost remained safe, the threat of enemies diminished, and the humans had demonstrated their strength, not through raw power, but through intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork. Tara gave a small, reluctant smile. "All right, beastie," she said, her voice lighter than before. "You didn't break my back yet." Elias laughed quietly, a warm, human sound that reflected triumph, camaraderie, and the resilience that defined his species. "Not yet," he said. "But humans endure because we never stop trying. That's the difference." As they descended toward the outpost, the stars bright overhead and the valley alive with activity, both of them knew the universe would challenge them again. But humans, with their cleverness, courage, and persistence, could face any obstacle and emerge stronger. Tara, once wary and skeptical, now understood why humans endured where others failed. They were not just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and explorers. And together, they had proven that humans could turn the impossible into the achievable. For the first time, Tara did not just trust Elias. She respected humans, their ingenuity, their resilience, and their unwavering determination. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but humans had shown that even in the harshest worlds, they could thrive, endure, and inspire admiration in allies and former skeptics alike. Elias glanced at her one last time. "The universe will challenge us again," he said. "But humans endure, that's what we do." Tara nodded, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and understanding. "I see that now. Humans are remarkable. I will remember this lesson." And with that, they walked together toward the outpost, the stars above them shining like countless witnesses to the triumph of cleverness, courage, and the enduring spirit of humanity.